All right, we are live. Hopefully, on this stream, since I am streaming from my iPad, you guys will be able to hear me a lot better because I was sent a microphone. Well, it's too dark to see what's on the bag there, but it's a Pop Voice microphone. Just a little guy that clips onto your shirt, or whatever it may be. I was sent one to review it, and I tried it out earlier, and it was really awesome. I know anytime I stream from my iPad, you guys normally cannot hear me. Normally you cannot hear me, so hopefully you can hear me a lot better in this stream. And if you can't, please speak up so I'll know, so I'll be aware of that. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? Okay. Someone said yes, perfectly. Awesome. I love doing little streams from my iPad. It's so convenient. It may not look the best, but at least you guys can hear me now with this new microphone conveniently clipped right there. Awesome. Pop Voice microphone. They sent it to me, emailed me, asked me to review it. They paid for it, and very nice of them. Very nice of them. So anyway, today on this random little 5 o'clock in the morning iPad stream, we're going to be talking about if you're anxious. What can you do? We know about the two main keys. If you've been on the channel for a while, you know about the two main keys. Accept your feelings, don't follow your thoughts, right? Don't add second fear. Second fear is what causes anxiety and panic to grow. But if you are feeling particularly anxious right now, there's one thing you need to be aware of, and that is the very plain and simple fact that the reason your anxiety is continuing to stick around and continuing to grow is due to the fact that you are entertaining these thoughts. So what can you do about that? If your thoughts are creating your feelings and we know not to follow our thoughts, what is a good way to go about that? If this is why we are suffering, what can we do about that? Well, it's important to become aware, first off, of what thoughts you're entertaining. So I'm aware that in this moment, I am entertaining negative thinking. So now that I'm aware, I can take action, right? I can do something about it. The next thing we want to do is to try to become more present. This is a practice, and this is something that when I first heard about it, I thought it was absolute nonsense, and I thought it was really just crazy. If you're familiar with Eckhart Tolle, then you know what I'm talking about when I say presence, living in the present moment. This is something I didn't think would help me, and I didn't learn until later on down the road, once I figured out how the mind and body works and how thoughts create our feelings, just how important it was to stay present and not follow your thoughts. So a good way to do that is to first, like I said, become aware of what's happening. Okay, I'm entertaining all of these negative, anxious thoughts, and they're growing. And the next step is to try to become more present. A good way to do that is one way is to use your senses. Okay, this is one way that we can go about this, is to use our senses. So we could pick a sound, for example, into our environment. I like to use the fan. I'm a big fan of the fan. Pick that sound and focus your attention entirely on it. So you're taking attention away from the stream of thought, the stream of negative thinking, which in the end is the cause of your anxious feelings, because of our favorite fun little fact here, the brain not knowing the difference between thought and a dangerous reality, a dangerous threat to you. So we pick that sound and we focus our attention on it. And what happens when we do that is we take that attention away from what's going on in the mind. We don't aggressively try to force thoughts out. We don't aggressively run around in a circle and say, oh, I wish I could get rid of these thoughts. We don't get ourselves worked up, but we gently make the choice to put our focus elsewhere. And a good way to do that is with senses, okay? So this is the present moment. This is the power of the present moment, the power of now, as Eckhart Tolle likes to call it. It's when we take attention away from the stream of thought, which is ultimately what's causing our feelings, and putting it elsewhere. And a good way when you first start practicing this is to use your senses, to really put your attention and focus on something that you hear in reality, to really put your attention and focus on something you see, something you're doing. And thought can be there in the background, and at first it may be there pretty loud, okay, and that's fine, but all we're doing is removing the fuel. Our fuel, the fuel, being our attention, our focus, getting ourselves worked up, entertaining these thoughts, entertaining this negative activity, really giving all this extra fuel to the thoughts, to the mind, which is what it needs to thrive. That is the fuel. So with this practice of accepting our feelings, not following our thoughts, what we're doing, and Dr. Claire Weeks mentions this as well, not just Eckhart Tolle. Dr. Claire Weeks mentions second fear, which to me personally, I believe is simply what we add to those thoughts, what we're mentally telling ourselves. That is the second fear. So when Eckhart says to stay present and to give our attention and take our attention away from the mind, he's basically telling us the same thing Dr. Claire Weeks was, which was to remove that second fear. So your mind is probably already telling you, or has already told you, that everything I just said is not possible for you, it's not going to work for you, it's just too complicated for you, you need something else, you need something more. As you can see, okay, this is a bluff. This is the trick of the mind. These are more unnecessary thoughts that don't need entertained, that don't need followed, that don't need fueled. Do you see how sneaky and ultimately tricky the mind can be? When the mind says, this isn't going to work for me, the mind says this doesn't exist for me, if you follow those thoughts, of course you're going to start to feel a little defeated and a little shitty. This is the trick of the mind. It's so tricky if we let it be and we're not aware of that. So if you're feeling anxious, I promise you it can be traced back to the thoughts that you're entertaining and giving your focus to, and this is a perfect chance to practice acceptance and to take your focus away from those thoughts and not follow them, okay? They can be there in the background, but we can remove the fuel. We don't have to follow them. We can choose consciously to put our focus elsewhere while those thoughts kind of just dissolve on their own, which they will dissolve on their own without the fuel. The fuel being what we choose to entertain and argue back and fight back and let run around in our minds and give our full focus and attention to. So if you're feeling anxious, it is a perfect chance to practice our two main keys here on the channel, especially trying to be more present, which is basically my second main key, not following your thoughts. It all goes hand in hand. Dr. Claire Weeks, Eckhart Tolle, every spiritual guide, teacher, myself, whoever, whatever, anyone who knows anything about this, it all comes back to that second fear. It all comes back to what you mentally entertain. Believe it or not, it is a choice. All right. So 7 minutes. It took me 7 minutes for that little lecture. We're going to read some comments real quick. I don't think it'll let me scroll all the way back up to the top, but I'll scroll as far as I can. Dead Street, hello. Craig, hello. Nora, first time in live chat, long time subscriber. Well, hello, welcome. Nicholas, Nora, hello everyone. Hello Wonder Bro, thanks for your awesome work. Thank you for being here. My anxiety is when I left the house, I didn't remember if I did lock the house or not. Also, it's like an OCD sort of thing. So this is a perfect stream for you then, since we're talking about thoughts and not fueling and entertaining negative thoughts, remaining present. Yeah, it can get very old. It can get very old. But with these practices, and these teachings that I try to give you guys, if you really dedicate yourself to them, you can make a lot of progress. You can make a lot of progress. Hello, Melissa. Hello. Lee, it's probably about 5 a.m. here now, I'd say. I slept a little bit last night and woke up pretty early. But honestly, I will probably go back to bed soon. I just was in the mood for a stream, really in the mood for a stream for some reason. And it had been like 4 days since I've uploaded. So I figured it was time. It was time to do something for the channel. And I actually just finished listening to an Eckhart Tolle lecture on YouTube. And I don't know, it kind of inspired me to share it with you guys, share some of that knowledge, present moment. That's what it's all about. No, I've not been sensitized for almost 3 years now, so anxiety free. I have what I like to call normal people anxiety over certain things in my life, But with the present moment practice and everything that I've learned, I can handle these things so much better, and they're not a big deal to me anymore. Before, if these same sort of life situations would have happened, before I learned the advice and practiced it, I would get really worked up and not be able to handle it so well. Thanks, Wonder Bro, for being awesome. Love the videos. They helped a lot. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank all of you I thank all of you for being here. It's really awesome. Having this channel and being able to do what I do, which is to help as many people as possible, it's so cool. I love it. I love it. It's a dream come true. Bro, you're a champion. No, there's nothing special about me. I learned all of this great advice. I put it into practice, and I seen the truth behind it. And now I'm just sharing it with you guys so that you guys can do the same. If I can do it, you can do it. There's absolutely nothing special about me. David, hello. Welcome to the stream. This is a very weird angle. I got a little stand for my iPad, which is convenient. But it's still pretty low to the ground. How is the audio? How is the audio? Now that we've been streaming for about 11 minutes, how is the audio? Does it sound pretty good? This is a new microphone, first time I've ever used it. Miss Lady Blue, perfect practice. Your video Give Up has helped me so much. Yes, that's a classic. Audio's great. How much time took you to be more calm with this method you explain now? When trying to be more present, at first it can be a little bit difficult, simply because you're in a bad habit, which is what I like to call it. A bad habit of following negative thoughts, a bad habit of adding second fear to situations, adding second fear to symptoms. So you're in a bad habit. So that's why it can seem a little difficult at first, because as we all know, habits can be hard to break. But, with dedication, you can do that. You can do it. It all comes back to not adding that second fear. Constantly doubting if somehow I'm accepting the right way, if somehow always turns into obsession and just gets me more anxious. Yes, that's the trick, right? So we think that if we obsess more about recovery and how to use acceptance correctly and what we should be doing to recover and so forth and so on, we start to obsess, and that obsession plays off the nerves, and then we get ourselves worked up. So all we really did when we tried to fix this thing was create the very feelings that we didn't want. And that's the ironic part of acceptance, is you truly have to drop everything, the obsession. You have to accept the way you feel and really work towards not following those negative thoughts, because that's the key. Thoughts create our feelings. So the more you obsess about recovery, the less you're doing for yourself, okay? And that's the ironic part about this entire journey. Oh, that's awesome. Almost at my step goal. If you're interested more in my stories, all you got to do is type in WonderBro My Story, and you can find several videos on me and my anxiety in the past. Anytime you guys are curious if I've ever made a particular video that you're interested in, all you've got to do is type in the YouTube search bar WonderBro, followed by whatever topic it is you're looking for, and chances are, if it's mental health related, I've covered it. How do you even live in the present without fearing the future? When you live in the present, you realize that there is no future. All there is now. The future exists in the mind through thought form, and as we know, thought form is not real. Thought form is just words in the head and inner dialogue. So once you become more present, you start to realize there is no such thing as a future. There is nothing to fear in the future, because the future is a mental concept. It's not a reality. So the more you start to be more present, the more you realize that there is nothing to fear, because there's nothing there. It's only ever right now. Of course, you can create a fake future in your mind through thought form, but there's no reality to that. There's absolutely no reality there. The only reality is what's happening at this very moment. So although you can scare yourself and your body with this fake future that you have in your head, because the brain doesn't know the difference between thought and reality, so although you can scare yourself with a fake future and it can feel real, it's not. And the more you start to become present, the more you realize that you're creating the very feelings you don't want with your imagination, with your mental interpretations, with the thoughts that you're entertaining. You are creating the very thing that you're trying to get away from. There's no monster and there's no force that is attacking us. There's no monster to fight. We are the monster that we're trying to fight. And once you realize that, you have to take responsibility for what you're entertaining upstairs and what you're fueling upstairs, and you have to take responsibility for the feelings that you're creating. You start to realize that being more present and not creating all of these symptoms for yourself is the way to go, and does take practice, does take time, but you can do it. Joe, thank you for being such an amazing mod as always. Now, that's not to say, you guys, okay, just to touch on that one more time, that's not to say that scary thoughts or negative thoughts won't come and knock on the door. They will, and they do from time to time, especially if you're sensitized. But you do have to take responsibility for what you add to it. You do have to take responsibility for what you give focus and attention to. So you have to take responsibility for that. Stressful life situations can cause symptoms. Yes, they can. But as long as you come back to the two main keys, as long as you're practicing and staying on the path, you will make many great realizations, okay? As you move on and move forward, you'll make many great realizations. And yes, you can scare yourself with scary thoughts in your imagination. It comes back to that simple fact that the brain doesn't know the difference between thought and a threat. So it jumps in to protect you the more focus you give to negative thoughts. I'm really grateful for your channel. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. I do my best. The channel's growing, and people seem to be benefiting from it, which is all I care about. I don't have any sort of set schedule, and not all of my videos or streams are that professional. Sometimes I grab my iPad and stream and it looks shitty, and that's just me being real. That's just me being me, and it seems like you guys appreciate that, so I'm glad. Yeah, Xanax is a good crutch. It might work great, but it's a crutch in the end. Not that there's anything wrong with a crutch. Dr. Claire Weeks mentions that, if you need a crutch, that's fine. But I do highly recommend that instead of relying on it 110%, that you do practice the two main keys, because one day you may not have that crutch for whatever reason, and you need to learn these skills. So I do recommend that. I do recommend that, even if you're on medication, which helps you, and if you are, that's fine. I do recommend you still try to learn these skills regardless. Oh yeah, when you're anxious, you definitely feel more negative, and you want to complain more, but that's that ego, that voice in the head, and that's what we're trying to distance ourselves from and not give so much power to. You are a healer. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hi, Chris. While you were sensitized, did you experience a lot of scary religious thoughts, existential thoughts? At one point during my journey, and I've been sensitized several times, this is the longest I've ever been without sensitization after learning, what I needed to learn to heal the right way, about 3 years now. But at one point during my journey, I did have a lot of those thoughts, and it's important to remember that once your nerves heal by not giving power and attention to those thoughts, and by continuing living and using acceptance, once you heal those nerves, those thoughts lose their importance, simply because your body's not in such a reactive state anymore, so it doesn't overreact to thoughts anymore. So it's not necessarily that the thoughts are important, which is another good reason not to follow them, because they're truly not important, but also because your nerves, once they heal, the body's not going to overreact to those thoughts, so you're going to be less likely to give them so much importance. But it's important to remember that right now, even while sensitized, that you don't need to give them so much importance, because it's a bluff. At the end of the day, your body's just overreacting, and that's a bluff. That's just a tired body. So don't even bother giving your attention and focus to those thoughts, because if you weren't sensitized, they wouldn't matter anyway. At least not as much. At least not as much. I was assaulted by 6, 7 people in 2018, nearly died since then. I was put in a mental hospital for a month and a half. I was fine for a little while. My heart keeps racing. I had a couple of issues. I saw someone got robbed and some guys. So yeah, you're dealing with a lot of negative thinking involving the past. And really, when we're talking about that, it's the same thing as any sort of thinking that involves the future, what if thinking. Same thing applies to thoughts about the past. We have to give our focus away, get our focus away from those thoughts gently. We have to come into the present moment more often instead of giving power and focus to those thoughts and letting them just grow. Even in thoughts about real situations like your past, we have to learn to let go of that. We have to stop fueling those thoughts. We can't take the past back. We can't change it. And, we can create a fake future, but it's fake. All these thoughts at the end of the day are just thoughts. And the more we practice distancing ourselves from the voice in the head and not adding that second fear, the better off we'll be, even if you've had a rough past. Even if you've had a rough past. What are the 2 keys again? The 2 keys are to accept your feelings and to not follow your negative thoughts, which basically means try to be more present, which basically means don't give so much power and don't give so much focus to the negative thoughts. Realize that you're being bluffed and that your body is overreacting and that you're not accomplishing anything. Realize all of these facts and then practice not fueling those negative thoughts. Practice not adding that second fear. Just keep working at it. Keep practicing the 2 main keys. You'll start to make many great realizations, and it may take some time. That's perfectly fine. Nobody's perfect. But the more you practice, the better off you'll be. Even if practice seems very pointless, even if it seems like, it's not going to help, you have to remember that the more you practice, the better off you will be. I wish I could get my phone to work right now. I'm not sure why it won't. Yep, scary and intrusive thoughts will definitely cause a reaction in the body just because the brain doesn't know any better. And if you're sensitized, that reaction is probably going to be amplified or will be amplified. That's okay. That's where we get to the point where we don't fall into that bluff. Hello, Jonathan. Welcome to the stream. I hope you are doing well as well. I am late. If you are late to the stream and you're interested in what we spoke about today, you can always rewatch the stream. They normally all get uploaded, just like a regular video would. Can we donate to you on Patreon? Unfortunately, I don't have a Patreon right now. Maybe one day. I do have a PayPal if you would like to donate there. It's shorter1993@live.com. But yeah, I don't have a Patreon currently. I've thought about it. Just never really got around to it. I'm recovered, but still like to say hello when you stream. I appreciate that. Keep practicing, Lady Blue. It does take time. It does take practice. I personally definitely wasn't great at this or perfect at this by any means when I first started practicing it, and I still had my moments, and you may still have a lot of moments, and that's okay. That is okay. All right, one moment, you guys. I'm going to lay you, let's see. I'm going to turn you around, actually, and lay you down right here for a second. I've got to go grab something. Alright, I apologize if that was really loud. Me moving my mic around and whatnot. I imagine it's pretty sensitive. Yeah, that is awesome to hear. I'm always happy anytime people who have recovered still decide to come back to the channel and hang out and just say hi. I love that. In 1987, I didn't even know one person that had a nervous breakdown. Yeah, it's, it's something that we're learning about, and it's something that's gaining more attention, which rightfully so. This knowledge and this information needs to be, more accessible, and it needs to be out there more. I know that if I, was able to learn about this stuff back when I first started having problems and I had the correct information, I probably wouldn't have had to went through a lot of the stuff that I went through, which is okay. I mean, it's no big deal. I'm glad I went through what I went through just so I could have all this experience for the channel now. But I'm just trying to put out as much helpful information as I can, and hopefully as time goes on and people out there, more and more people out there need the help, they'll be able to find it. I did a fair share of Googling and obsessing and trying to figure this all out on my own back in the day, and that didn't get me very far. What if it happened again? Then I kept putting myself in an anxiety situation and realized it won't ever happen if I don't react to the panic. Yes, if you don't react, you will always come out on top. Not adding second fear, basically. If you don't react and don't add second fear, no matter how strong the symptoms may come on, regardless, you will come out on top every single time. Because panic and anxiety, and all this crap, it can't thrive and it can't survive without your reaction, okay, which is AKA second fear. That's just a fact. There's no debating that. So, yes, I love that comment. If you don't react, you'll always come out on top. You'll always come out on top. And not reacting, now that you have all this information and you know about the body and mind and how panic and anxiety works and blah, 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 now that you have all this information, not reacting should come easier to you because you've got all the correct information now. So it's always a choice, which means you take the cure with you wherever you go, whatever you do in this world. You have the cure with you. Yeah, Joe, it is pretty chill. I enjoy these streams. Think talking to someone will help. I think learning the information and putting it into play is, of course, what's going to help the most. I guess it really depends on who you talk to and what they tell you. Personally, I never really spoke to anyone about it because I just knew they couldn't do anything for me, right? So I just didn't want to beat a dead horse, and I just learned the information instead and used it. But that's a personal choice. That is a personal choice. If you're talking to somebody about the information and learning about acceptance and mind and body, I don't see the harm in that. Of course, you've got to learn. That's okay. As far as talking to someone in a complaining manner, though, and complaining to someone, you'd really just be obsessing at that point. I'm not like zoning off. I've got my phone right here, so I'm not a complete weirdo. Meditation is basically not following your thoughts. Meditation is basically my second main key. I just don't use that term because it tends to spook people for some reason, because there's a lot of false information about meditation and how to go about it. But that basically is not to follow your negative thoughts, to remain present, to put your focus elsewhere, instead of adding second fear. That basically is meditation. I know when symptoms can come on so strong at times, or in waves or whatever. I know that can be more difficult to do, but it's definitely a choice. It's definitely something you can do, something you should practice. Yeah, I don't think I should smoke either. Remember the two main keys, friends: accept your feelings and don't follow your thoughts. Yes. Yeah, I know when symptoms are strong, it can be more difficult to use the advice, but it's still a choice. It's still available to you. You still can use it regardless. As long as you're not bluffed and you do come back to the advice each and every time, you will see how, you were responsible for that second fear all along, and that anxiety and panic would go away and would fade out if you didn't add that second fear. So don't be bluffed into thinking there's something more you need to do. That's a common bluff of anxiety and panic. I mean, the goal of anxiety and panic in the end is to protect you and get you moving and fighting and fleeing and protect your life. So, of course, it's only going to feel natural to want to do those things in that moment. But if you don't, and you stop adding that second fear, you will truly start to see how it was you in control all along, and how it was you who were amplifying these feelings and creating these feelings for yourself. And that's a huge realization. Then you realize there's no outside force that's attacking you. It was you that got into a bad habit of second fear, which caused the nerves to break down, which caused the symptoms, which caused all this drama in your life. That is a huge, huge realization. Huge realization. My main fear is going outside. As soon as I do, I start shaking. My heart keeps racing. Can't walk down the road either. Always negative thoughts. I try using your techniques. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. What you could be doing, and this is just me speculating, is you're desperately reaching out for the advice to work, right? So you're telling yourself, I'm going to use Wonder Bros advice in hopes that this thing will stop attacking me and I won't die or go crazy. But see, in doing it that way, you're creating more of the feelings still yet, because you're doing it in a way that you're telling yourself that if you don't do the advice or use the techniques, something bad's going to happen. So you use them desperately in an attempt to escape the feelings, but in doing it with that attitude and that mindset, you're adding more second fear. Very sneaky, very tricky. You're adding more second fear when you use the advice in such a way that if you feel like if you don't, something bad's going to happen. That thought, something bad's going to happen if I don't use the advice. Something bad's going to happen if I don't nail this technique. That's the second fear right there. Very sneaky, but that second fear is still there, and it snuck up on you, and it disguised itself as realistic thoughts and rational thoughts when it's not, right? So that was a mistake I personally made. I can't really comment on on therapists and what they do, because there's just so many different therapies, right? So many different therapists out there, and for some reason there's a lot of different techniques. I'm not bashing any techniques. I'm just saying I know what I know, and I know what's right. Not to sound conceited, but I know what's right, and I respect that there's therapies that try to help people. It's just a lot of the times that information is just not correct. So here with my channel, I try to spread what I know to be true. I respect that there's other help out there. It's just not a lot of it makes much sense to me. So have I been telling my brain that I'm in danger by fearfully reacting to symptoms of adrenaline? So that's why it gives me more adrenaline to protect me. Yes, you nailed it. Anytime you react fearfully to fear, you're basically telling your brain that you need more of the symptoms to protect you because there is indeed a real danger. So whenever anxiety and panic, the false alarm is sounded, and we react fearfully to it and add second fear, we're basically telling our brain that yes, the alarm was not a false alarm. It was a needed alarm, and I need more of your help. So that is anxiety in a nutshell. That is basically every problem as far as anxiety and panic is concerned in a nutshell. All that second fear with the mind telling our brains that we're in danger when we're not. So it continues to protect, and we continue to run in this circle. How long until you recovered, Wonder Bro, until it felt like you forgot about anxiety? Not fully, obviously. Yeah, not fully. You get to a point where you've recovered to the point where your nerves are no longer overreacting, right? So you can have memories of your past, memories of anxiety, and you're not getting a reaction from them, and you're just not concerned anymore because your mind is elsewhere. You've just moved on with life. So even though we can't eliminate or erase our past completely, once you heal, you will move on, and it'll become so unimportant. It'll become so unimportant. If you feel like you're not perfect at acceptance, that's fine. Accept even that. Accept the fact that you're not perfect at acceptance. Accept the fact that you still make mistakes. Accept the fact that, you mess up from time to time. Don't add second fear to your screw-ups, because it's okay to have screw-ups. How much I like listening to you. You give me hope. I'll be okay. Listening to you and reading people's messages, I don't feel alone. You're definitely not alone, and you definitely will be okay. Don't listen to the mind, to those old negative thoughts, those bad habits of adding second fear. You're breaking that habit. So, you will be okay. You'll all be okay. And if the mind tries to tell you otherwise, and symptoms come, and you start to get involved, take a step back and realize what you're doing to yourself. Realize that at the end of the day, you are in control of that second fear, and even though it's a bad habit, it can be broken. It can be broken. How can you manage to smoke after all those anxiety? I've had that question a lot, and it's funny because it comes back to what you personally believe. Some people believe that smoking calms them down, therefore it does. Some people believe that smoking makes them anxious, therefore it does. But what's actually happening in reality is you are entertaining negative thoughts that are then playing off your nerves because the brain doesn't know any better. So that's what's actually happening. You're being tricked by your own perspectives, your own second fear. You are creating the feelings that you don't want, and then it's being blamed on situations and circumstances, when actually we need to take responsibility for the fact that it is us doing it to us. And that was probably the biggest lesson that I had to learn, is that I have to take responsibility for the fact that although there can be situations in life that are uncomfortable or unpleasant, it is ultimately me creating this monster. It is me behind the scenes with what I choose to entertain, with the second fear that I choose to add, with the way that I react. It is me creating these things for myself. It is me, I am in control of that second fear, how I react, what I do. I created this beast, and I have to take responsibility for that. I have to. I have to stop blaming it on life and the circumstances. I have to stop blaming it on anxiety and panic. I have to stop blaming it on, situations. Love you, bro. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. How am I? I'm doing good. I'm doing well. So the only way to have control is to practice. Control over second fear, is a choice. So practice does make perfect. Practice does make perfect. And as you move along in this journey, you'll make many great realizations as long as you stick to what I teach. It may take some time, and that's okay. But yes, as you move forward, you will make many great realizations that although you can't control anxiety and panic, from coming, you can control second fear. And by controlling second fear, what we do is we don't react and we don't add second fear. We just make the choice to not add second fear. And by doing that, our nerves can heal, our anxiety can level out, and we can get back to normal and get on with life. So we do have control over that. We do have control over not adding second fear. We do have control over not getting involved with the mind. But the mind can send random thoughts that we can't control. The mind can send symptoms sometimes if we're sensitized, whatever. But it is in our control what we do with them. And that's ultimately going to determine whether or not we suffer. So while we don't have control, we do. And I hope that makes sense. Good morning, Wonder Bro. Big thanks for you sharing your story and Dr. Claire Week's method. It is working 100% for all of you guys. Eventually it will click. Yes, just keep practicing. I have seen many people who had gone through many serious problems, but they are still fine. Then why me? Why us? Simply because those people may not be naturally more involved with their thoughts. Those people may be naturally letting go more. Those people who are able to handle tough life situations without becoming sensitized probably never resisted their feelings, probably never overreacted, probably never got into the bad habit of adding second fear. And that's okay that you were one of the people who did get into the habit of second fear. Now you are aware of it, and now you can become one of those people who don't have that habit. So that's okay. That's fine. Probably just because you're sensitized and your body overreacts to stimulus. That's probably all that comes down to. Come back to the two main keys. Always a good chance to practice not adding second fear. Mentally, acceptance is 99.999% mental. As far as morning advice goes, it'll always come back to those two main keys. Get on with your day the best that you can. Watch your mind and don't add to those negative thoughts. Let symptoms come and go if they will. That's fine. And you'll start to realize that you are in control of that second fear, which makes all the difference. All right, you guys, we are approaching 43 minutes. Wow, this has been a long stream. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for your questions. I hope the stream was helpful and beneficial to someone out there. You know, as long as it just reaches one person, it helps somebody, just one person, I'm satisfied. So thank you guys very, very much. And I'm going to get on out of here. So until next time, as always, right there, boom. Stay awesome. Like, subscribe, share. Let's keep growing. 7K. We are on the way to 7K. So close. I'm very grateful. Thank you guys. Much love to all of you.